I haven't drank water in like 2 or 3 weeks. I drink raw milk, and that's like 92% water. And
Wait,
I'm
you're
trying
serious?
so like yeah, yeah. I haven't had a glass of water in weeks. It might be even longer than that. Yeah, yeah.
How
There's like
long?
no need. Even if I didn't have milk, there's really no need for water. You could have.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Carnivore Vitality. Today we have an extremely special guest. We have Joey Schwartz from Carnivore Camaraderie. So, Joey, do you just want to kind of introduce yourself, kind of talk about how you started with Carnivore and your YouTube channel and that kind of thing?
Yeah, I'd be happy to. Thanks for having me. So, my name is Joey. I started carnivore about 7 months ago at this point. And before that, maybe a year or so before I started carnivore, I was getting really into lifting and health. And my health was, kind of declining. Like I was getting a bunch of skin issues. I was so badly fatigued. My friends and I, we would go on the bus home from school and we'd all just crash. Like sometimes I'd miss my stop because I was just dead. And that was common, right? Like that was normal.
Mm.
And even after lunch, sometimes, I mean, I would just crash. Everything was just tiredness and sadness, and it was tough. Maybe I wasn't necessarily that sad then, because you sort of contrast it with now, like in retrospect, yeah, I might have been
Yeah,
sad,
yeah.
but in that moment, it's like you don't really know that there's better for you, that there's light at the end of the tunnel. But yeah, so I was kind of not doing very well. Started coming to the realization that, okay, this can't be good. Like this can't be normal for us. As much as my dermatologist wants to say that the skin issue that I have is not going to be fixed ever, that I'm stuck with it for life, I'm going to go against that, right? Like I'm going to try to find something. And so I started searching, did keto for a bit. Vegetables just destroyed my gut, destroyed me completely, made me want to sleep, made me want to be sad and angry. And so they're just terrible. And I even tried like really, really plant-based, even as far as vegan at one point, pescatarian, all that
Oh,
crap.
wow.
Like,
I feel
yeah, but like
sorry
for
for
a
you.
very, very, yeah, yeah, no, very briefly though. And I'm kind of thankful for it because it enabled me to understand that plant-based diets are the worst thing in the world. Like
Mm.
I remember feeling I didn't even want to walk from one class to the next. Like it was that bad. I didn't even want to walk to lunch. I remember feeling I just want to sit here and not move. Like it was
Yeah.
bad. It was you feel like crap. And I did. So eventually I learned about Paul Saladino. He's talking about vegetables, and this started to make sense to me and cool. So I cut out vegetables, ate meat and fruit, which was really great for me. It really did good things for me because it was the vegetables that were bad. The vegetables, the nuts, the seeds,
Yeah.
legumes, all that stuff that
Yeah.
that was killing me. So fruit and meat was fine. I was so active that I was just kind of burned through the sugar pretty quick because I was doing so much soccer at the time, so much lifting and stuff. So did that for 6 months, then kind of realized, why am I eating fruit? It makes no sense, right? Like, why am I eating so much fruit, even in the months when it's not even hot outside? And
Mm.
cut out the fruit, went carnivore, decided to make a channel for it because I kind of realized, there's a lot of professionals in the space, doctors and stuff, but there are no teenagers, like there are no younger
Yeah,
people who can
100%.
appeal to that demographic, right? So
Yeah.
got into that, and here I am, 7 months into it, feeling the best I've ever felt, and just trying to spread the message.
Yeah, awesome, Joey. I think the part about the fruit made you feel better. What do you reckon that was?
Yeah, so fruit, I mean, mixing fruit with the fat, like the sugar and the fat, was never too good for me. I mean, I always experienced a little bit of discomfort
Yeah,
after
yeah,
that
same.
because that's not evolutionarily appropriate. Mixing fruit and animal fat, they would have never been consumed concurrently. It would have always been in isolation of one another. So
Okay.
it kind of makes sense. I didn't feel too good mixing meat and fruit. So that's part of it. And it's also just sugar is, has that sugar raise your blood sugar, who would have thought, right? Sugar raise your blood sugar. So that causes a postprandial blood sugar spike and then a crash eventually. And you never feel good on that crash, on that insulin dump. And I didn't really feel good either. Also, there's just a lot of effects of fructose on the brain. I mean, my brain was working a bit differently on fruit and meat than it was on only meat, or than it does on only meat. Fructose is very sort of stimulating. It affects a lot of the pathways that tend to become altered in people with ADHD and depression and anxiety. I mean, it's pretty bad for psychiatric issues based on my understanding of it. And in a way, it makes sense if you think about it evolutionarily, right? Because we would have came across a fruit tree with a ton of fruit on it, and we're going to eat all that fruit. And it makes sense because it sort of enables a foraging response. You eat that fruit, you want to eat more. You want to eat more fruit, so you can pack on body fat more and more and more. Fruit is not satiating. Fruit does not quench your hunger. Fruit makes you hungry. It's supposed to. That's what the sweet taste is for. And so that's what I started, understanding more about fructose. Got into the work of, I think, Richard Johnson, who's just super into it. And just decided to cut it out. Feel better now.
So what's like your thoughts like long term? Like, are you planning to stay in this for life? And if you are you planning to to stay as strict as you are? And do you think there's any place for fruit to be in the diet at all?
So I will be animal based until the day I die. 100%. I'm not dogmatic. I've tried everything. I've researched everything. And I came to this conclusion that there is nothing better. Like, there is nothing better than an animal based diet without question. Now, whether that's carnivore or whether that's 80% meat or 90% meat, I don't know. I don't know if there's potentially room for a little bit of fruit when it's 100 degrees out, or like, you guys are in Celsius, but 100 degrees Fahrenheit outside. It's when it's really, really hot outside. And we might have had some fruit at some points during the year. It's possible. And I sort of leave space for that, the potential that there's slight nuance for different people. Like, maybe somebody who's extremely active, doing tons of cardio and stuff, might actually see a benefit from some fruit, but it's a slippery slope. What I'd like to say when people ask me, what is the optimal diet? What are you going to be on for the rest of your life? I'm going to eat animals. I will eat at least 85% meat and animals and eggs and raw dairy and stuff like that. That for sure. That extra 15%, it might be meat, it might be a little bit of fruit, it might be a combination of both. I'm not sure. But I just know that we're animal based, and I leave a little bit of room for possibility because I trying to learn every day and figure things out.
So on the topic of fruit, what's your thoughts on, like, I don't know if you've seen Paul Saladino, how he's like said on Carnivore Diet, he had like a bit of electrolyte issues and like cramping and stuff. Like, do you think that, like, if you're experiencing that, there's a bit of space to like add in fruit, or what's your thoughts on sort of with that?
I wouldn't make that recommendation. Like, if someone has electrolyte issues, it depends on how long they're in, how long into it they are. So if you're just starting carnivore for a month and you're like, oh, I have electrolyte issues, I need to try fruit. It's like, come on, like, that's crazy. You need to give it a real shot. So there are a couple of things that people should do if they have electrolyte problems. Number one would be eating more protein during those meals, so you get an insulin spike, which helps regulate your electrolytes better, because you need that insulin spike to regulate your electrolytes. Or else, if you have just like a flat insulin, you run into some problems like insulin suppression, which is a somewhat of a common issue. When people just load up on fat and they don't eat enough protein, it can actually be a problem. And there are a couple other things potentially going on there. Like, we might, because also keep in mind, right, the carnivore diet today is not synonymous with the carnivore diet, say, 100,000 years ago, because today we're eating meat that has been sort of held and stored for possibly weeks before we actually eat it. And with that, there comes the consequence of taurine depletion. So when we eat an animal freshly after killing it, there's a lot more taurine in that animal. And that taurine is pretty important stuff. When that taurine is depleted, which happens over time, because those liquids in the animal actually sort of dissipate and they are lost. When we wait so long, we can get some problems. So I also say taurine supplementation possibly for electrolyte problems. And another possibility is too much salt, too little salt. That's highly variable. It depends on the person. But I think besides those three things I just mentioned, the main one is that you give it time, right? You're coming from a diet where you're eating probably mostly plants in all likelihood, and you need to give your body time to adjust to a meat-only diet, something that it's never been on before. Even though it should be, it's never been on it, and it needs to get used to it. So even if you don't try any of those three things I just mentioned, you just continue eating only meat and you don't worry about the extra stuff, you'll be fine with time in all likelihood. You just need to give it time. And I think that's the key. People get pretty nervous a couple weeks in and they're like, oh, my electrolytes are dysregulated. Well, you're basically wreaking havoc on your body because it's never been through this before. So, give it time.
100%. Just switching topics, a lot of people are worried about cholesterol on the carnivore diet. And anyone that you talk to, when you tell them you're doing carnivore, they're always talking about how your cholesterol is going to go through the roof and you're going to get heart disease. What would you kind of say to someone that tells you that, or how do you defend yourself, or how do you defend the carnivore diet for that?
Yeah, so there's two sides of that claim. They're the cholesterol-rich foods, things like egg yolks, shrimp, squid. All these things are insanely high in dietary cholesterol. So there was once a hypothesis advanced that the amount of cholesterol you eat translates to the amount of plasma cholesterol. Like, you eat a lot of cholesterol-rich foods and now your cholesterol is higher. That's been actually thoroughly disproven, that dietary cholesterol doesn't actually affect serum cholesterol levels. In that your body just basically uses the cholesterol as a precursor to sex hormones and for cell membranes and all that stuff. And then whatever isn't used is just combines with bile and is pooped out. So eating more cholesterol doesn't affect your blood cholesterol levels. That's the first thing. Now, as far as LDL and HDL goes, the common idea is that LDL is going to kill you. LDL is bad. It's extremely harmful. And saturated fat raises your LDL. There's a direct mechanism. You eat more saturated fat, your LDL, typically goes up. There's a mechanism by which that happens. So that this is how the whole anti-meat thing, anti-saturated fat thing came into fruition. It's people thinking that since high LDL is bad, well, since saturated fat causes it, then we avoid the saturated fat. The problem is there's a fallacy in there. There's a problem. And that problem is that LDL is not bad. So what is LDL? LDL is simply the particle that transports cholesterol through the body. So LDL, that's literally what it does. It also transports like triglycerides and does some other things. It's low density lipoprotein. So LDL is not a cholesterol itself. It's simply a transport of cholesterol. So as I said, it goes around the body, transports cholesterol because it's essential to every cell and stuff that needs it, which is all our cells pretty much. And then what does HDL do? Well, HDL is labeled good cholesterol. HDL kind of goes in and cleans up the remnants of the LDL, if you will, just like absorbs sort of the stuff and then brings it back to the liver. Now, the reason why LDL has been demonized is because there's like cholesterol found in plaque of the people with atherosclerosis. And so it's about 5% of the plaque. So, you have a heart attack, you look at the plaque, about 5% of it is cholesterol. Now, when there's a fire, do you blame the firemen or do you blame someone else? You don't blame the firemen. And that's what cholesterol is, right? Cholesterol is not causing you to get a heart attack. LDL is not causal in heart disease by any means. LDL is absolutely essential. We need it. And there's actually many studies done where there's an inverse association between LDL and health outcomes. So, higher LDL is associated with better health, especially in the cases of people with bipolar disorder and other psychiatric issues. High LDL happens to be very, very protective. So it's a whole fallacy. It's a complete myth that LDL is a problem. The time when LDL might be a problem is when it becomes oxidized or glycated under the influence of sugar, seed oils, stuff like that, in which case there's a pathway proposed by Paul Mason where that LDL becomes glycated and oxidized and you can't absorb it in the liver. So it takes an alternate pathway absorbed in the macrophages and basically gets stuck in your arteries. And it's a myth. Nothing wrong with high LDL. Saladino at one point had LDL in like the 400s. And really no problem with LDL at all.
Yeah. So just what you said then about the oxidization causing the heart disease. So does that mean that eating saturated fat and high cholesterol foods plus, let's say, vegetable oils or a high amount of sugar, is that the recipe for heart disease?
Yeah, I think it's much more the vegetable oils. Like, I think mixing fruit and saturated fat is probably not the recipe for heart disease. I think it's much more likely that the seed oils are basically the prime culprit. I don't know if you mentioned that you've seen the graphs, right? You literally have the graphs where it's like seed oil consumption and then heart disease. Like they work, they're like
Quite
in
obvious,
tandem.
yeah.
They're basically in tandem. Like they are right next to one another. And it's not just heart disease, it's cancer, it's everything with the seed oils.
Mm.
And then refined sugar as well, and grains. So I think it's more those things that are impacting the quality of the LDL, but it's definitely not saturated fat. Absolutely not. That's not the problem there.
So what's your thoughts on like the current sort of like, you know, the way medicine goes about approaching like cholesterol and like prescribing statins and stuff? Like what's your sort of thoughts on that? Like, do you think they're going from it at a good angle, or do you think they should, you know, try to reconsider their approach?
Yeah, they got some work to do. They got to reconsider. The current medicine works from a viewpoint from the desire to what is it? It's more like to treat the symptoms rather than address the underlying issue. So you're trying to you're trying to treat symptoms instead of actually focusing on what the problem is. So when somebody comes in and they have super low HDL and they have high triglycerides, which is basically the recipe for insulin resistance, you're giving them medications instead of figuring out why that problem existed in the first place.
Root cause,
Because
yeah.
right, because chances are, if this person okay, so these things are all sparked very, very clearly by unnatural inputs, right? So in nature, there is no diabetes. Therefore, by definition, for humans to get diabetes, there has to be something unnatural going on. So there's unnatural input that's causing this outcome. Now, what the doctors are trying to do is they're trying to take an unnatural medication to fix the unnatural input that's caused the unnatural disease. Why not just revert to a natural outcome to fix the unnatural disease? Like you go backwards this way and you're just going backwards further when you take these medications that completely destroy your body. Things like statins, I mean, they are statins are just, they're so bad. They really mess with your electrolyte balance, your brain function. They make you turn into a zombie basically in many cases. So the modern medicine, while there's probably modest intentions in a lot of cases, maybe the results are just abysmal. Like they're very, very bad. And the complete approach, like it's not just certain medications are bad, it's the whole approach of modern medicine to not address the root cause, but rather to treat symptoms and do so in a way that is entirely unnatural, entirely unheard of throughout the course of human evolution. It's just really sad, and it's really illogical when we've seen what carnivore can do for people with these same issues that are sort of eliciting the prescription of various medications that are harmful. So it needs to be completely rewired, reconfigured. The system has a lot of work to do.
Have you actually had your blood works done? Like, have you actually seen what your cholesterol and stuff is, or?
I got to do that. I really need to, and I can do a good video on it too. Like,
yeah, I reckon I'll pop up.
I'm getting results of mine tonight. So.
Oh, really? Yeah. You got to do a good video. Like that could do pretty well. Yeah. I'm gonna do it. I don't think it's important. I think Sean Baker's talked about this as well. If you feel better than ever, well, what's it gonna change? Like I get a certain biomarker or whatever. Okay, what does that change? Because I feel better than I did before. So why would I go back to doing something else when I just felt like crap? So I'm going to get it done at some point, just out of curiosity, see what my testosterone is, see what my lipids are and stuff like that. But it wouldn't change anything.
So you're saying, Joey, how right now we're eating in an unnatural way. How is kind of our human evolution of our diet kind of gone, and when did we start eating a lot of these processed foods, and did it correlate with like a lot of the issues that we're seeing today?
Yeah, so we are very obviously natural meat eaters. We have a stomach pH of not just a carnivore, but of a scavenger. So like going to actually go feast on dead carcasses, like that's what humans are able to do because of our low stomach pH. We have so much stomach acid that we could easily destroy that bacteria and not have any problem with it whatsoever. Tons of hydrochloric acid to do that. there's no chance that we would have had that adaptation. Because if you think about what adaptations are, you only adapt when there's a selective pressure for it, right? Or else if there was no need for humans to absorb and be able to digest this meat, right? This old meat, rotting meat, well, why would we have such a low stomach acid? This is just stress on the body. The human body is not stupid, right? If our bodies are going to make a change, they're doing it for a logical reason. So the reason why our stomach acid is so low is quite obviously because we are consuming meat. And this is something that the vegans, vegetarians have absolutely no justification for. It's because they can't make sense of it. And in addition to that, there are cave paintings from so long ago of us killing animals, right? That's what the cave paintings are. It's this massive elephant and it's 10 humans surrounding it with knives and tools, and you're killing the animal, and you're going to feast on that animal for many, many days after that. In addition to that, well, every single nutrient is more bioavailable in meat. So why on earth would we be natural plant eaters if every single nutrient is better absorbed in meat? Why is it that we have less bowel movements on a meat diet? Well, less bowel movements means less stress. We're stressing our body less because we're pooping less. There's a reason for that. It's less stressful. It's better for humans. This is the optimal human diet. Omega-3 oils metabolism, that's another big one. Omega-3s are essential. It makes up a huge part of the brain, huge part of the eyes. They're very, very important things, and they're found in meat, right? ALA cannot be readily converted to DHA and EPA, which are the usable forms of omega-3. So we need what's found in meat. Another thing, fiber. We can't even digest it, right? We poop it out. The appendix is a vestigial organ that used to be much longer.
We're told we need fiber to like
sultana bran, well, that's Australian, but
yeah. I was in the store today buying meat, and I was walking through the aisles, and there's all these fiber supplements. I'm like, I'd never seen that before. I was like, these are literally fiber pills. Like, what on earth is this? Like, it's crazy. Fiber. It's just another reason why we're clearly naturally hyper carnivores, to say the least. We can't use fiber. If fiber was an integral part of the human diet, we would have developed the capacity to turn it into short chain fatty acids and use that for energy. Unfortunately, or maybe fortunately, we just can't do that. We don't have that capacity. So we poop out fiber. It's waste to us. Gorillas can convert fiber to short chain fatty acids and basically derive 80% of their energy from saturated fat. They get a lot of saturated fat from the plant matter that they eat, because they are natural herbivores. Humans are not. And it's just another reason, very clearly why we're carnivores. And also, the amount of the results that we're seeing on carnivore just further corroborate that. I mean, everyone goes carnivore and improves. Everyone goes vegan and just does really badly, typically goes back within, a couple years or so. And so, it's very clear that throughout our evolution, we're carnivores. And then when we go to eating plants during the commencement of the agricultural revolution about 10 to 12,000 years ago, well, that was a bad move. That turned out pretty badly for us. We went from 6'3" to like 5'9". Our testosterone went from 1,500 to 545. Our brains got 10% smaller, from 1,500 cubic centimeters to 1,350 cubic centimeters. We basically just, and if you look at people today, like, it's absolutely insane how emasculated men are. People are mentally ill constantly. It's really, really bad. And it wasn't like this before. I mean, people used to look like Greek gods. You look at all the Greek philosophers like Aristotle, Socrates, there's statues of them. They look amazing. This was not abnormal. They looked good. They were respected. They were masculine. They were real men. And so we basically just deteriorated as humans. We're in a tough space right now. And it's clear, to me at least, that plants, alongside other things like technology and a lack of sunlight and office jobs, and maybe even the integration of women into the workforce and a bunch of other stuff that has really just messed up, humanity. Plants are one of the bad ones. Plants are one of the major culprits.
Mm-hmm. So I have like a bit of a question that people always like say to me. They say like, ages ago, millions of years ago, when we ate only meat, I always bring that point up, and they always say, oh, but we only lived till we're 50. We always died early, What's your sort of thoughts on that? Like, do you think there's some validity to that statement, or do you think, you know what I mean?
I think it's a complete lie. I think we live till like 150, even in older times. I don't think there's any good evidence that we died at 30, like people say. I don't think that's true at all. It makes no sense, right? It like just logically doesn't make sense because you're living naturally, you're living optimally. Why would it be that humans start living naturally and then we start living unnaturally, right? We get less sun, more technology, more shit food. Why would it be that after that we start living longer? It makes absolutely no sense. Like completely illogical, because everything in nature, like that would be suggesting, to make that statement, you would have to suggest that somehow if we took lions and instead of, letting them live naturally, we start putting screens in front of their faces and we lock them into little rooms and we made them work and we did this and we changed their food source from hyenas, or no, not hyenas, from like zebras to salads, and we took and we separated the men and the women lions, and we like did all these stupid things, right? That would be saying that would make them live longer. And it's just insane. Like the more you think about it, the more ridiculous it is. So I really don't buy the idea that we died young. It just it simply doesn't make any sense.
Okay, so Joey, there's the standard American diet and then there's the vegan diet. The standard American diet, a lot of processed foods, but also the vegan diet, which completely restricts all animal fat and animal protein whatsoever. What are the kind of differences that you see there in your health?
Yeah,
Is
so
one better, or
so there are a couple things to consider here. Number one is the actual quality of the diets themselves, and number two is where you're at, like from in a mental state from one to the other. So let me explain the second one first. When you're doing a vegan diet, chances are you care about your health, which is important. And I think a person on a vegan diet is on a better route than a person on a standard diet, because it's almost inevitable in many cases to go to a plant-based diet before carnivore, because the plant-based diet, when you're trying to get healthy, is a natural sort of thing that you revert to. Nobody says, I'm going to get healthy, I'm going to start eating more meat. It's like, I'm going to get healthy. Okay, more salads, more nuts, seeds, legumes, like whole grains, right? So a person on a vegan diet is almost a bit further on that path in terms of achieving optimal health than someone on a standard diet. And so I think once you start prioritizing your health, you're in a decent place, and it's just up to keeping your mind open and not being dogmatic, so you can eventually escape that vegan diet and find the right thing, which is a complete 180, but it's still doable, right? As I could say personally, it's doable. Now, as far as just the actual quality of the diet, well, I think you can probably last longer. Like you take two identical twins from birth, let's say, right? You put one on a standard diet, one on a vegan diet. I think the one on the standard diet will live longer and be healthier. Because unsupplemented, right? Unsupplemented, a standard diet is better. You'll live longer. Because a vegan diet, you are so deficient in so many things. You don't get things like B12. You don't get things like carnitine, carnosine, creatine, taurine. You don't get omega-3s. You're missing out on the fat soluble vitamins, A, D, K2. You're missing out on selenium, zinc, iodine. There's a lot of stuff that you really, really don't get. And it's a huge problem. It's a really big issue. So if you're not taking supplements, you're screwed. Versus a standard diet, I mean, sure, you have processed stuff, you have seed oils, you have sugar, you have refined grains, a lot of really bad things, but your chance of a deficiency is much less. And while you are consuming garbage, you are at least getting some nutrients from animal products, things like cheese and meats and even processed meats, bacon and stuff. This is all better than not having that stuff at all. So people have asked me before, like, Joey, would you rather be on a vegan diet or a standard diet? And I typically say vegan diet, because if I'm on a vegan diet, it's more like I'm closer to a carnivore diet. I'm closer on that journey. On a standard diet, you're still at that point where you don't care about your health, because nobody on a standard diet is prioritizing their health. So it's a sort of like a loaded question. Like there's a lot to consider, but yeah, that would be my thoughts on that.
Yeah. So like, what does the future look like for you? What's your, like, do you have any goals with, like, just with this whole movement that we're trying to start, like pushing the carnivore space on YouTube, university? Like, what does your life look like at the moment and going forward as well?
Yeah, so I'm pretty optimistic about the future of carnivore creators in the space, because I think it's pretty much inevitable that carnivore starts to gain more traction. The results that we're seeing are unheard of. It's
Yeah.
really amazing. And to think that there's not going to be a huge influx of people starting to view our content more, buy carnivore products, right? I just think there's going to be a reallocation of interest and subsequently a reallocation of money. And the people who are buying the vegan products will start gravitating more towards carnivore inevitably, because we're the ones that basically have it right. We have it figured out, and it's going to have to become obvious to people. So I'm pretty confident in that regard that there's going to be a future for content creation and basically monetizing this way of life and helping people. It's a cool thing to do. It's really fun and it's fulfilling and it's enjoyable. So I hope that this remains to be a pretty big part of my life, and that I keep the platform, because it's great in a lot of ways. And so with regards to other things like other projects and school, I'm not staying. I'm leaving in a couple months. I'm going to go travel, and I think it'll be cool to like document doing the carnivore diet in different countries, like carnivore diet for 2 weeks in this country or in Bulgaria, or like it'll just be cool content. I think it'll be enjoyable, and it'll be enjoyable for me as well, because I can live there for pretty cheap and I can make good content. I can meet good people ideally, and it'll just be a fun experience to have. So that's my plan, and I hope to do that while also just simultaneously working very hard on my projects and everything. So I'm really excited about the future. I'm really looking forward to it. I kind of have always been this way. Like, I'm very stubborn and I don't do things I don't want to do. Like I never really have. I'm kind of, I've been like that since a kid. And so when I told my parents, when I told everyone, I don't want to go to college, it's like, oh, you're so stubborn. You don't want to do anything you don't want to do. And yeah, like, you're right. We only live once, we got one life here. Why would you want to spend probably 5% of it doing something that you absolutely hate, that you despise? And because that was my situation. I despise college. I despise sitting in a classroom with a bunch of blue-haired idiots who don't understand anything, and just, so that's, I'm excited to leave.
Yeah, that sounds awesome. You kind of want to travel the path that not many people take. Like you said, you were studying business. So following that route of going, maybe doing investment banking or being a stockbroker or something, there's been millions of people before you that have done that. There's no net benefit on the world. Anyone else can do that.
Exactly.
I think it's sick that you're chasing those dreams.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's fun. And also just the college education in itself. College is, if you discount the degree, like that stupid piece of paper that they give you at the end of it, when they say, okay, you've been a slave for 4 years, congratulations, here's your degree. If you discount that, college is entirely unnecessary, because information is dematerialized. It's not physical anymore. You don't need to be in a classroom to get information. I can go and listen to an economics lecture at UCLA from a professor, or I can look up a YouTube video of an MIT or Harvard or Yale professor giving the exact same presentation, or a better one, actually, a better presentation. And I can do it on my own time when I want, at my own discretion, leisurely, right? So it's not the same at all. There's really no need for it. And I don't think I'm missing out on anything, because I will always be a student until the day I die. I just don't need a university to do that.
Yeah, like people might be thinking, oh, you're not going to university, you don't want to learn, but you're probably one of the most driven people I know that wants to learn. Like, we can see it. You've only been on the carnivore diet for 7 months, and the amount of knowledge that you've just acquired about health and everything is insane. And you haven't gone to college or university and done nutrition or anything. You've genuinely just got into the research yourself. You don't need the professors and all that, which is,
it almost sounds like college is hindering your education a little bit, as as funny as that sounds. Like,
yeah, I was gonna put in my yearbook like quote. You know how people do that? Maybe they don't do it in Australia, but
No, not
you know, like
really.
you like put a quote in your yearbook when you
Yeah.
graduate senior year. I was gonna put something like school did not get in the way of my education, because I was learning so much through high school, not in school. I was gonna do some like sort of thing like that, because you know it's true. School in many cases gets in the way of an education, because you're forced to learn things that you
Yeah.
don't want to learn. It's mentally draining, it's exhausting. So you're hindered in that sense, because you can't spend energy, it's lost energy, right?
Mm.
So yeah, I mean, I do think in many ways college would just be you know, place a limitation on how much I could really do. I hope to be a bit of a testament to the lack of necessity of a college education, because if I can present an abundance of knowledge without having ever gone to university, it can be just a good message to send to people who are also criticizing the process themselves and are worried about not being able to learn, because it's very doable to learn without actually having a professor in front of your face.
Mm. So how do you personally get the knowledge that you've learned?
Yeah. So I I like to look at the facts first. So, and of course facts are objective. It's hard to get real facts, but I tried to stick to, okay, so when I was learning about cholesterol, for example, and saturated fat, well, okay, what is cholesterol, right? Like, let me find what cholesterol is. Let me find what LDL is. That's not disputed, because there is an undisputed definition of what cholesterol is. Okay, so it's this thing that's absolutely essential for the body. Cool. What's LDL? It transports this thing that's absolutely essential for the body. What's HDL? Okay, cool. So it cleans that up, the whole thing, brings it back to the liver. All right. Now, using my basic intuition, neglecting everything that I've ever been told, it's logical to assume that because LDL transports something that's extremely beneficial for us, that LDL in itself would not be detrimental. Similar to the idea that if saturated fat is our primary source of energy and has been for the past 4.5 million years, why would it be the very thing that's killing us? So I got the facts first, the things that we know for sure unequivocally. And then after that, I went around sort of uh trying to understand the, you know, different perspectives, and just looking through everything, trying to use discernment, like discern as best as I can. And it was at that point, with my basic understanding of biochemistry and just the facts, that I was able to reach the truth. And through experimentation in my own sort of tests, you know, trials and tribulations, I found a couple of people that I like and that I trust. So people like Ken Berry, Dr. Chafee. And once you kind of get into the space of carnivore, it's very easy to just find loads and loads of information. And there are a couple blogs that I found that I really enjoy, people who are just much smarter than I am talking about carnivore. And so it's just about using your judgment and figuring out just a base, sort of something that's where your information can stem from, and just having a good sort of solid ground to
Yeah,
stand on when
100%.
you start researching. Yeah.
Yeah. So now that you've sort of like, I don't know, your eyes have been opened and you've realized that like, you know, maybe you've been lied to your whole life, and in this sort of department in nutrition, has this sort of opened the gateway to question everything else, and maybe, you know, maybe all these other things that you've been told your whole life are like sort of a lie as well? Like, how's that been looking for you?
Oh yeah. So I learned about carnivore, and then I realized, okay, it's not just the food that they got wrong. It's literally everything. Like sunscreen. Why the hell do we wear sunscreen? It's the most idiotic thing ever. Why the hell are we putting literal like toxins onto our face to prevent the sun, like the ultimate healer? It's insanity. Why are we putting on deodorant? Well, we smell bad, right? Obviously, because we eat like crap. We eat vegetables. That's why we smell bad. I haven't needed to put on deodorant in months because I don't smell bad
Oh,
anymore because I don't eat vegetables,
You
right?
still
And
brush your teeth?
no, not really.
damn.
Yeah, I don't really brush. My teeth are great. Like I have like nice teeth.
No,
Like
you
here,
got some
like
good
you can
teeth.
see them.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like they're fine. They're not, they're not rotting away, And it makes sense, we like people have this idea, oh, the cavemen had rotten teeth and they were disgusting. It's like, that's a natural diet. That wouldn't be the case. You look at dogs' teeth, look at lions' teeth. They have great teeth. They don't brush, right? If you're using shampoo and conditioner, why, right? Like, why are you putting this stuff into your hair? These toxins that are just going to be absorbed into your scalp and probably going to cause hair loss at some point because they're so toxic. It was not just that. It was also understanding of mental conditions and realizing what malnutrition can really manifest as. It's not just the heart disease, the diabetes, the cancer, the other chronic diseases. It's even things like, well, it's a lot of stuff. It's a lot of stuff. I got into sort of the rabbit hole with the jab and like things that we can't really discuss, but there's a lot that you get into, and there's a lot that you quickly realize once you understand that they're not just lying about, or they're not just misinformed rather about nutrition. So honestly, I just believe that living as naturally as possible is an anecdote. That's the remedy. Being grounded, getting sunlight, eating proper food, not being in a sort of office type environment too much where you're trapped inside around a bunch of radiation and stuff. Just being as close to nature as possible. I think that's really the key to happiness and health. And anything that sort of takes you away from that is probably a red flag.
Bro, that was a crazy good answer. Oh my gosh. So much gold in there.
Wait, I was gonna ask. Wait, you want to go ahead? Oh yeah. So in terms of like water stuff, do you like with like water, do you like drink water from plastic bottles, or do you have like a filtration system in your house, or you're not at that stage yet, or you don't see importance?
I haven't drank water in like 2 or 3 weeks. I drink raw milk, and that's like 92% water.
Wait,
and I'm
you're
trying
serious?
to like, yeah. I haven't had a glass of water in weeks. It might be even longer than that. Yeah. It's just there's like no need. Even if I didn't have milk, there's really no need for water. You could drink, maybe you guys have noticed this, maybe you haven't, but when you stop drinking water, or like you just drink less of it, you allow your antidiuretic hormone to work, because we're supposed to be able to make our own water, metabolic water, because we eat a lot of fat. We eat a lot of saturated fat, which can basically be used for water. It creates water. And when we're being told, wake up in the morning and drink a glass of water, even though you're not thirsty in the morning ever, it's just so crazy. I basically sort of denied everything that defies intuition. So if I don't feel like I want it, I don't feel like I need it, I'm not going to go for it. It's the same with college. Like, it's just it's completely following intuition. So things like water, like if I'm thirsty and I really wanted water, which I haven't lately, but if I did, I would drink water. If I'm not thirsty, if I don't want water, why would you drink it? It makes no sense. Clearly your body doesn't want water. But when I do drink, I would never drink out of a plastic bottle. I don't want to leak microplastics and toxins into my body. But yeah, so I have like my house has a water filter, and that's all fine. If I do drink water, I drink this Mountain Valley Springs. It's this brand that it's like has glass bottles, and it's from the mountains, so it's a little bit better. It's still kind of expensive, but yeah, it's an investment in health, I guess.
You
But
still
yeah,
use water for your showers, right? Still
yeah,
showering
but
water, right?
I don't shower very much though. Like, I shower once or twice a week. Yeah.
Whoa, really?
Yeah. I mean, here's the thing, I don't even need to do that. Like, I don't smell bad, and I don't get dirty. So
Is that what other people have
kind
said?
of unnecessary. What?
Is that what like other people said? They say that you don't smell bad, or is it just you saying you don't smell bad?
No, maybe I'm just delusional. I just want to believe that. Yeah, no. I know that I don't. I like got confirmation and everything.
Yeah.
It's all good. Yeah, it's I was talking to my grandpa at one point, and he was just saying, oh, we showered only once a week back then, and his diet as a kid was
Wow.
bacon and eggs. It was bacon and eggs and
They all
pork
had bacon
chops.
eggs.
Right, like that's what it was. That's what it was in the 1940s, and they showered once a week because they didn't smell bad. They ate whole foods, and they were fine. And it's kind of like that's how it's like for me. I literally don't smell bad. There's no reason to shower if in that case.
Wow.
It's like with us, with like Ed and I, like at least for me, like, you know, I still use deodorant and stuff, and like because I generally smell bad if I don't put it on. So do you think there's like a certain like your body has to detox and there's time, like your body has to heal, and then it can
Yes.
start to that it takes time
Yeah, you need to give it like a month or so.
of
Yeah,
just nothing,
yeah,
like no,
yeah,
yeah,
with nothing. Because you know these things are made very strategically. Like you need the same with hair products. You
use
know,
it, then
when
you need it
I
more. Yeah,
yeah, like when I was doing shampoo and conditioner for years, getting off of it, it was not easy. Like your hair is a little bit greasy for a bit because those things really are not good for you. I mean, they're built so that you have to rely on them for the rest of your life, and you really don't want to. Like it's an unnecessary expense. Like to pay for shampoo and conditioner and toothpaste and deodorant for the rest of your life. Like that's kind of annoying. You don't want to do that. You don't need to do it. It's entirely unnecessary. It just takes a little bit of time to get off of, so your body can get used to it, and then everything will be much healthier after. So my hair is like it's so healthy now. It's healthier than it's ever been. Well, it's hard to see through the camera. Like my camera's not great, but no, it's just great, and like I can move it around and stuff, and it just feels nice. It's soft. Like it was never like this before, and everything is just better when not on under the influence of unnatural products. But like you said, it takes time, a little bit of time.
I've got a question, Joey. I'm sure all the fans are all asking this question, but in your time on Carnivore, have you cheated? And if you have, how many times have you cheated on the diet?
I will eat fruit and yogurt like a couple times a week or something.
Yeah.
So yeah, I have my bowl of yogurt, and I put some blueberries or some blackberries or raspberries or whatever in there and call it a day.
I wouldn't
But
say it's
that's
like
it.
cheating.
Yeah, it's fine. It's no big deal. It's it's a few berries. I'm not going out and I'm like eating pizza and stuff or
Yeah.
cakes.
I saw
It's
one of
just
your videos about
it's a
alcohol
few
though.
berries. Oh yeah, alcohol. That's a thing. Yeah.
Alcohol and raw milk.
I haven't drank in like since before, since like a week before I made that video. So it's been a little bit. I don't think I'm going to, especially because I'm leaving school. So I'm not probably not going to drink for the next few months. But people in the comments under that video were calling me an alcoholic. They were all jealous. Like they were saying, Joey, you're going down a dark road. It's like I was going to a couple of parties drinking a little bit. Like they got to chill out. But
Yeah.
yeah, alcohol is definitely a toxin. Yeah,
Do you think
yeah.
you'd feel better if you cut out I mean, like when you have the yogurt and berries, is that just sort of just like more a leisure thing, or like, do you actually feel better when you have that? Do you get what I mean?
Oh,
Yeah,
it's just because I like it.
yeah, fair.
If I cut it out, it wouldn't be different. Like it'd be the same thing. It's kind of irrelevant. Like at this point, my gut is very much healed, I think, and I can sort of deal with that stuff better now. I don't really have many issues. I don't think it negatively affects me.
Mm. So you'd give advice for someone like sort of starting the diet, like maybe at our stage, or someone who's got more serious health issues, to sort of just be more strict, and then once they heal, they can start to like just have a bit of yogurt maybe, or a bit of berries if they really want.
Yeah, like I said earlier, it's a slippery slope because you know it can stimulate that desire for more food and binging, and people who have eating disorders might want to stay strict on carnivore. It really depends. But for me, and depending on who you are, your personality, it can be totally fine just to add in some yogurt and berries here and there. It's I like it. It's just if I ever want to chill, just relax, but I'll just I'll do that. It's really not a problem for me.
So yeah, we're really happy that you could join us today, Joey. It was really good fun, just like, fellow like-minded people talking, and I'm sure the fans will love it. So for the future, where can people find your channel? And yeah, you like all your socials, where can they find you?
Yeah, so it's Carnivore Camaraderie on YouTube. Camaraderie spelled CAMARADERIE, carnivore_camaraderie on Instagram, and carnivorecamaraderie.com for consultations and just checking out the website. So yeah, I appreciate you guys having me on, and let's do it again sometime.
Cheers.
Yeah, it was good fun. Thanks, Joey. We'll see you around.